the evening as well. So this afternoon I have a special guest. Some of you have seen on our social media that we're very lucky to have a really interesting person as our ambassador. And some of you will have seen his film recently and the fact that he's a bit of a film star now, because we feel that the film was really about him. So I'd like to introduce you to Dave Hill.
Hello, Sandra, and hello, listeners.
So it's great that you could join us today, Dave. You'll all know, listeners, that Dave Hill is from Slade, and he tours quite a lot. We're really lucky he's in the country at the moment, because he's usually flying his kite all over the place, all over the world, sending me pictures and videos of thousands of people who turn up to see him. So have a look out for his tour at Christmas, because you'll be able to catch maybe the last tour of Dave Hill Slade, and it will be, I said the Gentleman Songsters was going to be banging, this really will be rocking and banging.
Yeah, certainly will.
So, Billy, I know everybody's excited at the station to see Dave here today.
We are, yeah. We've got all the photographers here and everything, and the GJ's here, the biggest Slade fan in the world.
That's right.
Officially,
yeah.
Never mind all the others who think they are. Eh?
Yeah, but there's a big reason why Dave's here, because he's your patron, so he's going to tell us all about his work and what he does for you, isn't he? So.
Yeah.
Would you like me to tell them?
Yeah, please feel free, Dave.
Well, I've always had an interest in mental health due to my mother suffering mental health when I was very young. Thankfully, she lived long enough to see me become successful. My mother's very special to me, but I know she suffered mental health. And the kind of stuff that she had to deal with it were electric shocks and some dreadful treatment. Those were the days when it isn't like now. But my interest in mental health is also that I suffered depression twice in my career, brought on by two different circumstances. But I'm well now because I met a good psychiatrist, and she keeps an eye on me, which is great. Now, joining up with this important situation is that I met Lenny Henry's sister, Kay Hinton, at someone's house where I was happened to be there. A wonderful woman, and she was telling me about an event she was putting on at the
racecourse.
Thank you. It was just a racecourse. Sorry about that. I did go. Yeah, she was putting an event on, and would I come? And I said I would, and then she was talking to me, and she's very bubbly and very, very nice person. And her brother Lenny, I know obviously from our very early days playing at Queen Mary Ballroom in Dudley, because Lenny used to work there as well when we used to play on stage as the in-between, so fun days. So, bringing it forward now, Kay was talking to me about needing a voice, talking to me about what can we do, mental health in the West Midlands. Suicide rates are high across our country in men. I know about that. In fact, I've written a song which I'm going to give to Sandra and mental health. It's called Trouble Heart. It's a true story about a woman I know who I hadn't seen for years, but I met her son, his young lad, and she just told me this story, and it was just heartbreaking. And Kay also has had heartbreaking stories too with suicide in the family. So you see, the element of my involvement is personal, as well as it's important to me. Maybe I'm doing it for Mom, maybe I'm doing it for the people out there I know that suffer for it. Because surprisingly, when you talk about mental health and things, some people are quite quick to actually talk about it. Others tend to want to keep quiet. But we're in the days where we're taking antidepressants, and I take them to keep me above the water so I don't go into the mental health state. I mean, I was really bad when I had mental health, and the only thing that saved me was the music of Slade. I dragged myself on stage most nights, not wanting to go on, but I did it because it interacted endorphins in my body and it helped me feel good about myself. But the thing with the West Midlands Black Country mental health is there's lots to be done. We need to raise money, we need to do events. I'm quite prepared to do some music. It doesn't have to be all downbeat, it can be a bit entertaining, but my primary interest in it is make awareness. I'm also part of the Stroke Association in London because I had a stroke on Slade in 2010, so I know a lot about strokes, and I help them with the awareness, and they need money as well. It's very similar to Sandra's organisation, is it all comes down to funding, and the funding's needed to help people, and there's a lot of work. Now, I know Sandra, I've known Sandra a few months now, one of the nicest people I've ever met, and I can tell instantly I liked her, and I could tell she's a hard worker, and she most certainly is passionate, and I'd like to give my support to her to be passionate about what we're about to do. We've got a few years ahead of me, I hope, if I live long enough, and I intend to look after myself. So I want to do as much as I can because it is personal to me because of Mom. It's personal to me because of things that happened. And also there are people out there that really, they want a situation where they can find a place to go. I know things are difficult in hospitals, and sometimes there is difficulties in getting the right people to help you. But there are people out there, like Sandra, like many others. You know, there's David, there's all the people I met at down at the hub, and, you know, the volunteers, you know. They're doing it passionately, and they're not doing it for money. And I'll never do it for money. Anything we get, or I get, I'll give this song to Sandra. If there's any money in it, if it does anything, I'd give it to the mental health, because I think really this is, I hope I'm not talking too long, but in the sense that you'll probably get the impression I'm quite serious about what I'm talking about, and I can tell you serious stories because I know a lot of them. But the thing is bringing a light, isn't it? It's bringing light and hope to people who probably shy away from even talking about it, especially blokes. I mean, suicide rates of people committing suicide over being dumped by a girl, or financial problems, or just generally unwell and on downbeats things. I've understood, having been in mental health, the sort of things that you do in mental health would turn your head. I mean, just the things it made me think, this is wrong, that's wrong. Everything looks wrong. In fact, it's not wrong. It's your mood that makes it look wrong. And that that feeds the problem, you see. Mental health is not going away anytime soon. It'll be many years, you know, but things will get better. With people like Sandra and the West Midlands Mental Health, I mean, they got the King's Award. I want to give that award to Sandra, because people like her are hard to find.
Do you find it easier, Dave, to relate because you've lived the experience?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because if people do talk to me, I mean, I wrote a book out called So Here It Is. It was my life story of growing up in 1946. So I'm a post-war baby. We grew up in ration books and all that kind of stuff, right? But, I mean, we never, you know, people who were a bit odd were known as odd. Not, what's wrong with you? Oh, well, it's a bit nutty, you know.
Yeah, they used to say your auntie's gone do lolly tap.
Oh, yeah, it was like, you're odd, or, you know, you're different. It's like autism. It wasn't understood years ago. It's not totally understood now. But the thing is, autistic children, I've got one in my family. My beautiful granddaughter, firstborn granddaughter, we didn't notice it at first until we noticed that she was turning her back when people were talking to her. And then bit by bit, I understand it now because I know how to work with her. I've had some help with it, There's a lot of autistic people. Years ago, you wouldn't even know what autistic meant, It's not that you're nuts. It's what it is you're wired differently. And you're normal. You are normal. It's just that you think differently. They isolate themselves. They wear headphones a lot. And you have to be careful with social media, especially girls, and we had to deal with something where we brought the police in because there was somebody on social media playing to be a young man, and he wasn't, he was an old bloke. Social media is another problem which fuels mental health. The actual disparaging, the fact that, being famous and being in the, in front of things. Years ago, it was just newspapers, but now it's something else. People can get destroyed very quickly, and something that they've said or is misquoted, and they end up in a lot of trouble. So I'm very much aware of what it's like these days, You've got to watch what you say. But for me and the mental health organisation, I'm very open because it needs talking about.
I think that's the that's the big thing, isn't it, Dave? It does need talking about because, again, having listened to everything you've said, and I think you've spoken, if I may say so, very eloquently about it, clearly from the heart. And I remember growing up, going to school in the 70s, and as Billy said, and as we all acknowledge, there have always been odd kids, but they were treated as odd. They were treated as strange. You can stay back after school and you can have an extra hour's tuition in this, that, or the other. And that surely would only alienate people even more, to be effectively told by the system that you're different, there's something wrong with you.
The system's not good.
No.
It's not good. The schools, we're in lots of trouble with the schools. They're the best will in the world, some good teachers there, but actually dealing with the immediate problems, in a lot of cases, they're trying to deal with the kids in the school. They're trying to deal with other problems, and autism is special, In fact, my granddaughter now is taking the exams. She hasn't been to school for 2 years.
Wow.
She's been in her bedroom, and it's heartbreaking in a way because I know how to talk to her, and I tell her how important she is to me.
Sure.
I draw her in to making her feel good about herself, and she gets on with me. But I know behind it all, she's clever.
Yeah.
She's autistic, and she's gone to school to take the exams that she needs to take. And I can see there's a certain bit of happiness coming from her. But when you're autistic, you can also lack emotion towards problems. Like you can see somebody get hurt and not really respond. There are a lot of complications in autism, and there are specialist people out there. You may have to get somebody privately. Sandra's dealing with this all the time, so she knows and probably knows more about autism than I do. I only know what I see at home. But I've always told her, I don't want to mention how long I'm going to live. I've always told her that I'll always be there for her. And I said, I want to see you grow up. She's 15 now. I want to see you grow up. I want you to meet somebody and get married and have children. I'd like to see that.
Sure, of course.
It's kind of you trying to be human with them, You don't want to point it out. If you shout at them, they'll turn their back on you and look at the wall. And it's heartbreaking to see that because they sensory issues. They can't cope with that kind of talk. They can't go to pubs and have a racket of people yapping away. I got her to go to a birthday party of her brother. And it was good because we had a table together. And thankfully, she got her headphones on. But she was there. She was there and she had something to eat. She's getting better now. But as I say, the system sometimes, there is all sorts of frustrations. My own daughter knows it with not being able to get the help from schools. And there are other organisations that don't come through either. And I'm sure Sandra knows more about that than me.
I think we've got two ladies just started. Well, just they're doing the third show now, and they're mothers of children with autism, and they've started doing a radio show because other mothers don't know where to go. So they're on here telling people, well, if this happens to you, you phone us, we'll tell you what to do. It's like you say, that it's like a minefield, isn't it, to try and get information and get stuff done.
The problem with assessment is it's such a long wait now.
Well, yeah,
it's
they've got one child that's autistic. They know the other one. They know because they've lived it. The other one is, and they've got to wait 18 months for an assessment. And they said, but we live it. We know that.
But 18 months for an assessment?
Yeah.
That's the frustration, isn't it?
It's sometimes, I mean, I know you get problems at the doctors and things like that. You can't get an appointment, you know what I mean? I mean, I go back a couple of 3 years. Yeah, I just used to go to the doctor, and there's people there I've known years.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll get you in, Dave. No problem.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then you get other things that go on, like, you know, I had an ear infection. It was like, well, I'm struggling to get an appointment. They're really trying to help you. You can't criticise the situation. They're either short-staffed or there's just not enough doctors.
Constraints of the health service.
I mean, the NHS, I mean, there are a lot of difficulties in Russell Hall and other hospitals, you know. Yeah. And people sitting in corridors who are 80 or 90 years age and haven't been seen, have been there hours and hours. That's not the system we should be living in.
No.
We're in a modern age where we've got technology that's the best in the world, right? We've got blinking mobile phones. We can communicate. We can get the help. If we've got problems, you can go to the world on media. You know, people might go and have an operation abroad because they go and get one here. Yeah. I mean,
and these waiting times, it becomes self-defeating, doesn't it? Because if you're told, you know, if you're told 18 months for an assessment, that just surely adds to the person's anxiety and you know, compounds the issues.
That's
the problems.
Dangerous because that gives them the feeling of no help.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, I'm not right, I need help.
Yeah.
And where do you go?
It's the same for ADHD as well, though. Well, CAMS are saying 2 years.
Really?
Waiting in this area. People can go and pay, but they're not bound to accept that private assessment. That's the problem. There's a lot of adults now that are waiting for ADHD. I had a child in last week and her dad said he had ADHD. So it's,
yeah.
Awful. Shall we play a bit of music?
Yeah.
Shall we play a bit of Slade?
Play a bit of Slade.
No, shall we? Let's play Lock Up Your Daughters then.
Oh, yeah, that'll be all right.
Lock up your daughters! Sometimes you're acting fool. Sometimes you're breaking the rules. Sometimes you wanna run away.
bit in the break about now how people feel a little bit more comfortable talking about mental health, particularly men. And Billy, you know, I've always said that that's one of the good things I feel came out of COVID. Because from COVID times, lockdown, we had loads of men that contacted us, and probably we have more contact with males now, adult males. Obviously, with children, it's different. It's a mix, but I do think that that's a really good thing that men do feel able to come out and also talk about things like domestic abuse. Because, you know, for years it's always been, oh, it's women who are abused, when actually there's a lot of males that suffer abuse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there is in marriages, if that's what you're referring to, and even in non-marriages, there is a lot of. I think the situation in our world is, and I'll always say it, is if we all loved one another in the whole of the world, it would be a different world. But not everybody wants to buy into that. The world is speed and greed. That's the principle of the world. I want it now, and I'm greedy. Not all of us, but generally, you know. How much money do you really need to be happy? Well, very little, actually. You need to be fed. You need to be able to, you know, look after yourself. You need certain principles, don't you? But with all my fame, I mean, it was a funny time, actually, in the 70s, but it was the same with the Beatles. I'm not a political person, but some of my best years, they were taking near on 80 and 90% of my money in tax, right? I mean, it's unfair because you have a short slot in fame. Every group has a short slot. We lasted a lot longer than most. We had hits in the 80s. A lot of bands did not have that. The Beatles were a 60s band, but then they progressed. Not all bands in the 60s. They finished. They couldn't go any further. The thing is, the politics are one thing, but the principle of riches is, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm older, that when I look around at what I've got, the principle of what I've got is I've got a great wife, right? She met me before I was famous, so there was no marry a pop star. She comes from Willenhall, right, or Walsall. Very black country, very local. And I actually met her through Nod's girlfriend. That's how I met her, at the Cornwall Hotel in Wolverhampton, where we were playing on a low stage. We were Slade, but we were Ambrose Slade, about to go some places, you know. I mean, I think Jan's mum and dad at the time thought, he ain't got any prospects. He can't, you know.
He ain't got a proper job.
He gave up a perfectly good job at Tarmac.
Yeah, he says he don't want to be going out with the Rolling Stones people, you know, or anything like that. It was really funny.
You've got a wonderful wardrobe, though, Dave.
Oh yes, I got a wonderful. But the process of your greatest achievement in life, it's true to say this, is having children. Your greatest achievement. Not everybody can have children, but to bring forth a part of yourself is that I've got 3 great kids, right? I've got a son who's like top Ferrari tech.
Right.
He's 3rd best in Europe, right? He's got his own business in New Toxteth, looking after people's old Ferraris, because people need that, you see. My one daughter is like my wife, she's a hairdresser. My other daughter, Bibi, is redhead. She's like me. She's out there. Once you meet her, you'll instantly like her. She's got a great personality, but she's very driven, like me. You know, she doesn't see obstacles. She goes for it. Well, others might, but think about that, and you know, especially don't keep thinking about it, you'll forget it. But the thing is, the whole prospect of the family, when I first heard that quote, it was from a lady in next door, she just said, my greatest achievement is my children.
Yeah.
And I thought, what a good line, that. It's like, it's not the greatest achievement to become really successful. It is an achievement, right? It may not come up to the high ranking of the real truth, and the real truth is being human, being interwoven with your family, or these are the true things. Other things are outside of that. I mean, you can get simple people who just go to work, or they tend the garden. There are a lot of people who are happy with a great deal less. In fact, I thought most people were more happy in my childhood than they are now.
I think you're absolutely right, Dave. I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
I mean, we didn't lock the back doors.
No.
You still have the back door open? I don't think anybody was going to nick anything anyway. No. We hadn't got anything to nick, actually. No. But the thing is, in those days, I mean, my mother goes to work, you know, my mother was something special. We didn't know until she died that she was working in government, War Cabinet Minister Secretary.
Wow.
Yeah. And she couldn't have told us. She was sworn to secrecy.
Yeah.
And my mum and dad, I mean, it was complicated because Mum had got a child, Dad didn't know. She meets Dad, and he's married, and his wife won't have his kids. And they meet in a air raid shelter, the pair of them. Mum's working in the office now. And they fell in love, and she said, and Dad said, well, I'm married. He says, but you won't have my kids. She says, I'll have your kids. I mean, this was the early days, in the 40s, you know. I'll have your kids. That's where I come in, so. But, you know, it was a different time. I'm glad I was born in 46. Because Britain was bombed, London was damaged, and Coventry disappeared, and all the things that happened, and the terrible sides of war, and Hitler and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I've been to Auschwitz, so I've seen that place. And I went in there, and it's the most eerie place you'll ever go.
I don't think I could go. I honestly don't think I could go.
Oh, yeah. There's no birds. Birds don't tweet. There's a death there. You feel it. I saw Fiona Bruce go to it, and I think she's a very good presenter.
Yes.
But she went into the area where they gassed them, and she couldn't cope when she came out of there. I've been in there. This is where they put those pellets, and they killed them, right? And I saw where they were experimenting. You know, they were experimenting on people to try and make perfect people or something. The atrocity of that man and the whole scenario. Germany's a lovely place, lovely people. I love playing there, but you can't sort of, in the sense of how that happened, but it did happen. And obviously, when you go to Auschwitz, you just think, I mean, there's bad things now. There's tons of stuff in this world, you know.
But I think a lot of, as well, again, listening to what you're saying, Dave, I think, you know, the war's a long time ago now, but I think the effects of the war and subsequent wars, because there's never peace, is there? There's never any real peace, you know. They're still being felt. Because, I mean, we all know, we all had a granddad or a dad that came back from the war, they were lucky, and they wouldn't talk about it. And they never talked about it.
No, they wouldn't.
Because that was their way of dealing with the mental effects.
Well, I was lucky with my dad.
Yeah.
He was born in 1903, too young to go in the First World War and too old to go in the Second.
Yeah.
That was great. He goes on a ship, £5, and goes to Australia for 7 years, buggers off. I think that's where I get my... It goes off, right? I mean, and the funny thing about my mum and dad, and I never knew, they faked their wedding. Because neither of them could get married.
No.
Dad's wife wouldn't divorce him because he'd got a policy. and he didn't work. He was just like, he's got a policy, and she was hanging on to it. His meeting mum has got a child, right? And I never knew until I met, when I did my book, I went to see mum's sister's son.
Yeah.
And he was older than me, but he was at my birth, right?
Yeah.
I was sitting there, and I've got this guy, Anthony Keats. He's doing the books with me, he's recording. And he says, well, of course you know about the fake wedding, don't you, Dad? I said, what fake wedding? And he says, oh, no. He says, we went to a registrar, and all the people were outside with confetti. And he goes in with her, shoves a ring on. We're married. I thought there's something I like about Mum and Dad. You know what I mean? Maybe those two personalities produced me.
Yeah, well, of course they did. Yeah, they did. Talking about your book, which obviously I've read, I think when you talk about mental health issues in the book, again, very candidly and very brave, because it would have been easy just to write a rock star book, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And leave all that stuff out.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you included that, and again, that would have helped a lot of people. People picking up that book, reading that stuff, and thinking, you know what? If Dave Hill's got the courage to talk about this, then it's okay for me to do likewise.
And that actually happened, by the way.
Yeah.
I was in Worthing.
Yeah.
And a guy shouted me, and he says, Dave, you really helped me.
Yeah.
I said, what? He said, when I read your book, I'm going back to my psychiatrist. I haven't given up.
Yeah.
And if you make one difference to one person in life, you've done something.
Yeah.
Haven't you?
Yeah.
You don't have to make a difference to the millions, but if you make a difference to one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we say that all the time, don't we? With our charity stuff we do, Billy.
Just one person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been worth it.
Yeah.
I think we had one night where we AA come and do a programme on Black Country Extra, and it was going out on the main station, and I was at home, and I forgot who the house was, but they phoned and they said, do you know where the AA meeting is tonight? And I went, well, no, I don't know. And they said, only I've got this bloke on the phone and he needs to get to a meeting. He's listening to the programme now. So I had to phone David from AA, find out the nearest meeting where this bloke was, and phone back and say, well, tell him it's here. It starts at 8 o'clock. Now, you don't know whether the bloke went or not. But if you did, you've changed somebody's life. You ain't shooting for the world, are you?
I have a tendency, I don't know what it is, sometimes I like a magnet. I seem to draw people. And ever since I've been involved with Sandra, it's surprising how many people I've come across.
Yeah.
It's just generally because it's in my mind, and if it gets talked about. And sometimes you're suddenly probing somebody you think you really know. And then one day he comes out with something you really don't know.
Yeah.
And it was a guy I know, he's a friend. But he come out with it,
Yeah.
I think people think, well, what was it like to be mentally ill, or what were you doing?
Yeah.
Well, I was doing really, it was weird how I was thinking. I got into an idea of everything was diseased, or I was washing, and you're going through phobias, this and that and the other, and I started to feel responsible for, I better pick that up, that might, it's a really strange thing. And it went on for 2 years, and the kids were worried. I saw several people, and I saw a professor of psychiatry.
Yeah.
And he said, Dave, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to recommend you to this lady I know. He said, he said, all of us have our own special ways of doing it with it.
Yeah.
So some people know more about medication, and they're better in that area. And I was about to, I can say her name, Elisa Brownell. She was someone I went in, and I was against.
Yeah.
I said, well, drugs don't work, but it was, she listened to me, and then she made an adjustment.
Yeah.
And when I started to see the doctor, he said, I've never heard of that. You see, because he doesn't know.
No.
I've never heard of that combination.
Yeah.
Well, that combination did it.
Worked for you?
It took ages.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't happen right away because you have to do a low dose. But you put something I was taking at night, I carried on.
Yeah.
But it was joining something. It was a new drug. It was called sertraline, but it was brand new a few years ago.
Okay.
It was the new kid on the block. because in the days when I was rough, at night the night drug helped you go to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's a well-known drug, and it has a different method. But the actual experience I had was breathtaking, because I was in this kind of fog of not knowing that there is no help. And then I just remember that she rang me and said, "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, it doesn't work." She said, "Not just yet. I'm going to up the dose." And it was about 2 weeks after that. And bearing in mind, before that, I didn't seem to like music, or I was didn't have the same impact. And then I went to Birmingham and I put this old 60s thing on. Oh, it's bloody great, that. You know, it was bloody Beatles, and it was Billy Fury and all the ones I grew up with. And it sounded fantastic. I went, and then I went into Selfridges. And bearing in mind, for 2 years, I couldn't choose clothes. So I got into Selfridges, which is not cheap. And I went into Selfridges. And instantly, I've always been able to choose clothes.
Yeah.
I had them made.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. But I saw something.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm having that. And it didn't stop there either.
No.
And then I come home. What you bought? What's that?
And his missus said, "Oh my God!"
It got worse and worse, and I keep going. And the wife was getting a bit worried. He's gone from there
to be.
I better watch out. He'll buy a Ferrari. He'll go over there. You know, it was really that sort of. And even my agent said, "What are you taking?" I said, "I think I'm taking life, actually." But it was like everywhere. I was just. It's how I feel now, because I went through it again in COVID. COVID buggered me in my head.
Well, of course, you're off the road.
I was isolated. And I couldn't have those endorphins. I couldn't get on that stage. I couldn't play to millions of people. So what was I doing? I was writing. So there has been something good. I was writing in my room, and every so often I see the wife. She brings a piece of cake in a cup of tea. And then she goes back, and what's she doing? Well, she's doing puzzles. She's bought half a dozen. And then she's watching Tipping Point with Ben Shepherd, you know. And I keep going through, who's this? You know, it's Tipping Point. You've got to watch this. And then it was just like that. Then we couldn't go out.
No.
I couldn't see my daughter. It was next door. And if the grandkids come, fortunately, I've got a bit of a paddock. I'd look at them through the edge. It was like, because at that time it was like, it's like, watch where you're doing and watch what you're doing. Death is around. And it got Boris Johnson delivering the 5 o'clock. I was terrible news, constantly with death. How does that affect you? And this hasn't gone away, you know, because there are lots of people after COVID have become ill, mentally ill, because they've been isolated. And isolation for a person of my personality, I'm a people person. I get on a stage and I can talk to a massive crowd. You'll never get me flinching.
I can testify. I can testify to this.
I talk to them, but I'm also quite passionate when I talk to an audience. I reflect the times we live in, and I reflect the fact that I've got the music which makes them feel good. I said, for this moment, this night, this is what we're doing. And I bet you're all feeling good, and they'll start clapping, because that's what it's like. It was like the film, you know. I go there, and the director's there, and Tom Conti's there. They're all there, and the place is packed, right? It's the British film industry's main venue. And there's just loads of people there, and I'm sitting there, and there's Nod, you know, which is a pair of us, you know, and just enjoying the ride, you know. And then on comes the film, and I haven't seen it for 40 years. And they've enhanced it. It's brilliant.
Well, you know what? I've literally the day before yesterday, came back off holiday, And before I went away, I ordered with Amazon. Other retailers are available.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Woolworths, but that's gone.
Yeah. The new, I bought plenty of Slade records from Woolworths. I've ordered the new Blu-ray DVD combination. My wife's
really good.
My wife's like, how many different copies of this film do you need to own?
I said the exact word to the guy that came to my door with his mate. Right?
Yeah.
He'd got an old dossier of several pictures of me, and then another one, several of the same pictures.
Yeah.
And I've seen him the year before. He's very nice, and he's mate. They've got all this stuff, and I'm signing it, thinking, "Are you selling these?" I said, "I'm signing the same one." You know, he said, "No," he said to me, "No, I'm passionate. I'll have them all in a folder."
Yeah.
You know, 10 million versions. So I said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'm having that one because I like that picture." So I
Just put it around.
and there's another one in there. I've never seen it before. He's got pictures of me
That you've never seen.
Never seen.
I
It's
thought,
amazing.
"Oh, this is good."
I hate to interrupt, but we've got to play a piece of music now because we've only got a
Is
few
that
minutes
what we have
left.
to do?
Yeah, hang on. And, so let's play "How Does It Feel" by Slade.
How does it feel running around, round, round? How does it feel watching from upside down? 'Cause many years from now there will be new sensations and new temptations. How does it feel? How does it feel right at the start? And how does it feel when you are thrown apart? 'Cause many years from now there will be new relations and new frustrations. How does it feel? Oh, oh. Do you know what it's like to be searching in your own time? All you're attempting, experimenting, all on the climb. Do you know what it's like to be searching and suddenly find all your illusion, all your confusion, all left behind? How does it feel turning away? How does it feel facing another day? 'Cause many years from now there will be new horizons, new horizons.
Right, thanks, Dave.
Hello,
Dave.
oh, Sandra, you here?
I am here. I am still here.
These two blokes here have been chatting for the last hour. It's been brilliant.
Billy, you and I are between two Daves. Yeah. As Dave H has alluded to, we are planning a big event next year, and as soon as it's tied up, we will be announcing.
Yeah, we will.
So watch every space connected with Black Country Mental Health, because you won't want to miss this.
No,
this is
definitely.
definitely going to be one thing. So Dave Brown, yeah, you need to have it on your radar.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that anything we can do as a station to support, we will. Yeah,
That's
for sure.
good. So it's been great listening to you today, Dave, and I know you've got loads of stories, and I love some of them.
That's
Particularly
fantastic.
when you recorded the Christmas song in the heat of the sun in America.
It's legendary, that.
Yeah.
Legendary.
Yeah.
So
You've got a few minutes. Have you got a question for him, Gary? As an avid fan.
As an avid
I am. Yeah, I think it's just brilliant.
Hey,
Do you want a radio show, Dave?
Yeah.
Well, no, Dave Brownlee was going
His
to.
question is, sign me on.
Dave Brownlee, if he was here, he was going to ask you to do a Christmas special. So we'll have to keep that on burning.
I mean, there's a million questions I could ask Dave, but I think if we've got a minute just to wrap it up, I think it's great of you to come in, Dave, because again, a lot of people are going to be listening to this, and I think what they'll potentially take away from it is, well, if Dave Hill can come in and talk about mental health issues, given, I mean, there was no bigger band than Slade in the 70s, we all know that, and you're still touring the world, you're still famous, everyone that's got even the slightest interest in music is aware of Dave Hill. So if Dave Hill can come in and talk as candidly and as openly as you have done, Dave, thank you, about very, very serious issues, that will have some huge, I believe, positive effects on the audience that's listening to this show. So thank
Once
you very
again,
much.
you give the opportunity for me to come and talk about it, right?
Yeah.
I'm here because you've asked, and Sandra's behind it, and the point is, this is what I'm doing now, and what I'm really keen on. And usually the way I'm driven as a person is, if I get the bit between my teeth, I hang on to it, But I think that's been probably part of my life, in the fact that when I first formed a group on a council estate, I mean, bit by bit, they all fell away. They all got day jobs, real jobs, as we call them. But from that situation, I mean, my first guitar was ordered on Kay's catalogue.
Yeah, Kay's catalogue, oh God.
Yeah, and it was £7.50, right?
Yeah.
And Dad said, I'm not buying a bloody expensive guitar. He said, I know what you're like. You'll pick it up and put it down and never play it again.
Yeah.
He was wrong about that.
He was rather wrong about that.
He was very wrong about that. He said, anyway, what you do with the guitar upside down? I said, well, I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
He said, well, you can't have it like that. The strings are the wrong way around. I said, well, you thought, I think you better have some lessons.
Yeah.
So I go to a biology teacher at Highfield School, right? He's a jazz guitarist. And he says, you can't have the guitar like upside down. He says, play it right-handed. Well, there were no Beatles then.
No.
I was 13.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was Lonnie Donegan.
Yeah.
That's who was big.
Yeah.
And it was all skiffle.
Yeah.
I mean, strange groups in those
we might
days.
get cut off in a minute.
Oh, right. That's it.
Okay, 30 seconds. So
Anyway,
I need to give our phone number.
Yeah, that's
Been an
it.
absolute gem.
Thank you, Dave.
We should have had a day's long programme. We'll have a Slade day, shall we?
I think
A
next
Dave day.
I think I should have a bed for the night when I come in.
It's been an absolute privilege, mate, honestly.
Yeah.
And we're going to go out with that track that, Do you want to quickly give your contact?
01384 685 060, and I'll be here next month talking to you again with maybe somebody else.
maybe
just me and Billy.
Maybe Dave.
Or it's part two.
And here's Far, Far Away by Slade.
Go down the Mississippi. I've seen the bridges of the world and they're for real. I've had a red light up the wrist without me even getting kissed. It still seems so unreal. I I've seen the morning in the mountains of Alaska. I've seen the sunset in the east and in the west. I've sang the glory that was roaming past the hound dog singers home. It still seems for the best.